there's one other potential curveball that I have in this build that I've been dreading kind of setting up, and that is that I chose to build this up with a brake system called Mini V brakes. Mini Vs are they're related. Well, the concept is it's a linear pull brake. The brakes that I got for this bike are Tektro Mini V brakes, and these are cool because they have the linear pull concept, but they use the cable pull from a road bike integrated shifters like I'm using here. So this one I've already opened up just to see the components. So the way it works is on on a road bike, normally you depress the brake lever, right? And the cable gets pulled, but on a road bike, the brakes are mounted on the center, and they're called a dual pivot, and they clamp onto the rim using a single pivot or a dual pivot system, and they work fine, but apparently they don't have a huge mechanical advantage, but for the most part they're fine. But the way that mountain bikes, forks, and frames are set up is they're set up for these dual posts where the brakes mount. So the brakes don't mount in the center, they mount on the sides. So this little hollow chamber fits over the post here, and then there are binding bolts. There are the little bolts that thread into. Oh my God, that was open. I didn't know that. So these bolts, they thread into the internal threaded section of this, and they've already got a little bit of Loctite because you don't want your brakes popping loose. But what I'm getting at is that Mini V brakes are called mini because the lever, the arm, is shorter than a mountain bike V brake. So the arm is longer, meaning that when you pull the cable, it has a higher mechanical advantage. So these are shorter arms, meaning they have less mechanical advantage, meaning they work well with the road pull, but because they're shorter, they don't clear as large of a tire. So now is the moment of truth where I find out whether these are going to clear these tires when they're mounted in the frame. I have not tried this before. I just want to see if these brakes have a hope. If they don't, then this was the other big gamble I made. If they don't, then I'm going to have to buy cantilever brakes, which are used for cyclocross bikes and mountain bikes, but they you can get cantilevers with road pull. All right, so I have to adjust these pads a tiny bit into here, but it's going to be tight. It is going to be tight. You know, that might not be so bad. There's going to be tension on the cable. It's hard to visualize without the cable being there. Let me use the actual piece I'm going to use. So, one other pro tip. The stock Tektro Mini V comes with this piece called the noodle. The noodle, well, I'll show you in two pieces. I'll show you in two segments. I'll show you real quick. So this is how this goes. This noodle, the cable from the brake runs into this noodle, and then it goes through this little mounting bracket here, and then you add on this little well, I'm holding the camera with the hand I'm manipulating, which is hard, and then what happens is the cable runs through here and it clamps down into this piece here. So essentially it looks like this when all is said and done, basically. Okay, and I'm just trying to figure out whether I'm going to have clearance. And when the cable is tension, I mean, that little nub on the V-brake is pretty darn close to my tire. I don't love that. But it's hard to know because the cable will have tension up in an upward direction. So see how as I slightly put a little bit of pressure upwards, I think the cable is going to have enough tension to pull that. And that's not bad. I think I might see if I can just sand or grind down this little nub on the brake itself, just so that it's either rounded off or, I don't know. I don't think it'll be a huge issue, but I have a slight concern. But it's hard to know until I get that mounted. Oh, but the pro tip I was telling you, the pro tip is this noodle is simply a hollow housing, which is fine, but it helps to be able to have an adjustable noodle. So for an extra, I believe it was for these two noodles, let me put this down so it's not shaking as much. For these two adjustable noodles, they've got basically a barrel adjuster for the noodle itself. So this can, as you twist this, it either adds length to the cable or shortens the cable. So it's a barrel adjuster for the brake noodle, and this is what I'm going to use. Same concept, but it's going to come in like that. And then again, that will have a little bit of tension from the housing. So yeah, I think it's going to work fine. I think it'll actually be great. I think it'll work. Bottom line, though, is that I'm at a point now where I've pretty much, to make any progress, I've got to start thinking about putting my cable housings and my cables on the bike. So that's the next major project. I'm not gonna do that right now. But in order to test the brakes, I have to do that. In order to test the derailleurs, I have to do that. Well, in order to make the bike work, I have to do that.